right concentration, Samadhi. Right concentration is the final factor in the Eightfold Path. Because concentration is connected to the cultivation of the mind in its entirety, there is a great deal of material for study in relation to this factor. Concentration involves refined states of mind, and its development is highly detailed and complex. One may say that concentration marks the point where all 8 factors of the path converge and engage in unison. Definition of Samadhi. The term Samadhi refers to a mental concentration or one-pointed attention. A common definition for Samadhi is Citta Ekagata, or simply Ekagata, which literally means the state of focused attention on one object. The mind is firmly established on one object. Attention is not distracted and does not waver. The commentaries define Samadhi as a wholesome mind attentive on one object, balanced and well steadied, or simply as a steadfast mind. They describe the essence of concentration as non-distraction and non-wavering. Concentration helps to gather together accompanying spiritual factors, just as water helps to bind flour together and prevent it from being dispersed. Concentration manifests as tranquility, and it possesses happiness as its unique proximate cause. A concentrated mind is steadfast and still, like a candle flame in a windless location. The candle burns in a steady, even way. It is not immobile, but it is tranquil. In the suttas, right concentration is defined in terms of the 4 jhanas. Monks, what is right concentration? Here a monk in this dharma and discipline, one secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, he enters upon and abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by initial and sustained attention, vitarka and vichara, with rapture, piety and pleasure, sukha, born of seclusion. 2. He enters upon and abides in the second jhana, which is clarity of mind and one-pointedness, ekagata, without applied and sustained thought, which have been stilled with rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. 3. With the fading away of rapture, he abides in equanimity and mindful and fully aware, still feeling pleasure with the body. He enters upon and abides in the third jhana, on account of which the noble ones announce he has a pleasant abiding, equanimous and mindful. 4. With the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, he enters upon and abides in the fourth jhana, which has neither pleasure nor pain, and purity of mindfulness due to equanimity, vipeka. This definition for concentration should be considered as a way to describe the fulfillment of concentration. This is because the suttas sometimes define the faculty of concentration simply as one-pointedness of mind, citta ekagata. For example, monks, what is the faculty of concentration? Here the noble disciple gains concentration, gains one-pointedness of mind, having made relinquishment the object of attention. This is called the faculty of concentration. The commentaries offer this definition for right concentration. What is right concentration? The establishment of the mind, the steadfastness of the mind, the stability of the mind, the non-wavering, non-distraction of the mind, the non-swaying of the mind, tranquility, samatha, the faculty of concentration, the power of concentration, balanced concentration, the enlightenment factor of concentration, which is a factor of the path, connected to the path. This is called right concentration. In sum, right concentration is applied for the goal of liberation and developed to support wisdom, which understands things as they truly are. It is not used to satisfy worldly desires, for example by becoming an accomplished meditator in order to boast about one's psychic abilities. There are teachings in the scriptures confirming that Dharma practitioners can develop insight by using only a basic level of concentration, referred to as insight concentration, Vipassana Samadhi, a concentration accompanied by wisdom, or a concentration applied for developing penetrative insight, which lies between momentary concentration, Khanika Samadhi, and access concentration, Upachara Samadhi. Levels of concentration. The commentaries divide concentration into 3 stages. 1. Khanika Samadhi, momentary concentration. This is an elementary stage of concentration which people can apply and benefit from in everyday work and activities. It is also the starting point for the development of insight. 2. Upachara Samadhi, access or neighborhood concentration. This level of concentration suppresses the 5 hindrances and occurs before the mind accesses a state of jhana. It is the initial stage of attainment concentration. 3. Appanna Samadhi, attainment concentration, established concentration. This is the highest stage, the fulfillment of concentration, which is present at all levels of jhana. The second and third kinds of concentration are mentioned frequently in the scriptural explanations of formal meditation techniques, Kammatthana, and they are defined in a clear fashion. Access concentration occurs when the mind relinquishes the 5 hindrances. When a person is focusing on an object of meditation, access concentration occurs with the arising of a counterpart sign, Pati Bhaga Nimitta, a mental image of the object of meditation. This image is more refined and profound than an ordinary mental impression. It arises from pure perception and is free from both color and blemish. A person is able to enlarge or minimize it at will. Access concentration is on the verge of complete concentration. The mind is just about to reach jhana. Skill and proficiency in access concentration results in a settled state of mind, which develops into attainment concentration. From this point, the jhana factors are fully present. The scriptures, however, do not seem to provide a clear definition for the first level of concentration. To help here, an outline of momentary concentration, describing its essential features, may be formed from the following sources. The Paramatta Manjusa claims that momentary concentration, Khanika Samadhi, is comprised of Mula Samadhi, basic concentration, initial concentration, and Parikama Samadhi, preparatory concentration, initial application concentration, which are mentioned in the Visuddhimagga. The commentaries give examples from the Pali Canon describing how basic concentration, Mula Samadhi, is equivalent to momentary concentration. Monk, you should train yourself thus. Inwardly my mind shall become firmly established and well composed, and evil, unwholesome states shall find no footing in the mind. Thus you should train yourself. When inwardly your mind is firmly established and well composed, and evil, unwholesome states find no footing in the mind, then you should train yourself thus. I will develop and cultivate the liberation of mind by loving kindness. Make it my vehicle, make it my basis, stabilize it, become proficient in it, and fully perfect it. Thus should you train yourself. When this concentration has been developed and cultivated by you, then you should develop the concentration which has both applied and sustained thought, or which is without applied thought and has only sustained thought, or which is without both applied and sustained thought, or which has rapture, or which is without rapture, or which is accompanied by great happiness, or which is accompanied by equanimity. The commentaries explain that the state described in the first passage above, in which the mind is firmly established and well composed, and evil, unwholesome states cannot overwhelm the mind, is basic concentration. The mind sustains attention on a single object and is independent. The second passage describes the cultivation and strengthening of this basic concentration through the practice of loving kindness meditation. Commentaries compare basic concentration to a fire that has been ignited by rubbing two sticks together or by using a flint, and they compare the cultivation of this basic concentration, say by developing loving kindness, to adding fuel or kindling to this fire so that it blazes further. The third passage describes the increased cultivation of basic or momentary concentration so that it becomes attainment concentration, passing over access concentration at the level of jhana by focusing on another meditation object, for example, one of the 10 kasina objects. Another example is the Buddha's description of his own efforts in meditation. As I abided thus, diligent, ardent, and resolute, a thought of renunciation arose in me, a thought of non-ill will arose in me, a thought of non-cruelty arose in me. I understood thus, this thought of renunciation, this thought of non-ill will, this thought of non-cruelty has arisen in me. This kind of thought does not lead to my own affliction, or to others' affliction, or to the affliction of both. It aids wisdom, does not cause difficulties, and leads to nibbana. If I think and contemplate upon this thought, even for a night, even for a day, even for a night and a day, I see no danger that may result from it. But with excessive thinking and contemplation, the body will become tired. And when the body is tired, the mind is disturbed. And when the mind is disturbed, it is far from concentration. So I steadied my mind internally, quietened it, brought it to one-pointedness, and concentrated it. Why is that? So that my mind should not be disturbed. Tireless energy was aroused in me, and unremitting mindfulness was established. My body was relaxed and untroubled. My mind concentrated and unified. Quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, I entered upon and abided in the first jhana. The commentaries explain that the phrase to steady the mind internally, quieten it, bring it to one-pointedness and concentrate it, and the phrase the mind concentrated and unified both refer to basic concentration, i.e. to momentary concentration, which exists prior to the arising of attainment concentration in jhana, as described by the final line of this passage. The commentaries also offer examples for preparatory concentration, parikama samadhi, such as a person who develops the divine ear, dibasota, When this person exits from jhana, he focuses attention on various sounds, beginning with loud, distant sounds like the roar of a tiger, the rumbling of a wagon, or the blare of a horn. He then gradually focuses on less conspicuous sounds, say of a drum, a gong, the sound of music, the sound of chanting, the sound of two people conversing, the sound of birds chirping, the sound of the wind, or the sound of rustling leaves. Ordinary people can hear these sounds, but someone with preparatory or momentary concentration will hear these sounds much more clearly and distinctly. Momentary concentration should be understood according to these explanations. Some texts add insight, concentration, vipassana, samadhi to the list, inserting it between momentary concentration and access concentration. Insight concentration is momentary concentration, which has been applied in the development of insight and which is refined through this form of meditation. Adversaries to concentration. The following qualities stand in opposition to concentration. They must be eliminated in order for concentration to arise, or one can say that they must be eliminated by concentration. These factors have the special Pali name Nivarana, which is translated as hindrance or obstacle. Technically speaking, they are things which hinder the functioning of the mind, obstruct the goodness of the mind, and sap the strength from wisdom. They are negative, unwholesome qualities that prevent the development of virtue and sully the mind. Buddha described the 5 hindrances in the following ways. These 5 qualities, monks, or obstructions to wholesome states, hindrances to spiritual growth, they constrict the mind and weaken wisdom. These 5 hindrances are impurities of the mind, weakeners of wisdom. These 5 qualities are hindrances, makers of blindness, causing lack of vision, causing lack of knowledge, detrimental to wisdom, increasing distress, non-conducive to nibbana. It is important to recognize these hindrances when they arise and not to confuse them with tranquility, samatha, or with concentration, samadhi. The 5 hindrances are as follows. 1. Kamachanda, the desire to obtain, the desire to acquire, literally delight in sense pleasures. Covetousness, abhijja, the desire for the 5 objects of sensual enjoyment. Kamaguna, sight, sounds, odors, tastes, and tangible objects, which are pleasurable, delightful, alluring. Kamachanda is a defilement related to greed. When the mind is captivated by sense objects, caught up in desires and attachments, easily distracted and preoccupied by sense impressions, it will not become firmly established, composed, and concentrated. 2. Bhayapada, anger and resentment, indignation, hatred, ill will, spite, and malevolence. Seeing others as adversaries, irritation, peevishness, aversion, and displeasure. When the mind is continually in conflict and disturbed, unbalanced and lacking fluency, it will not become concentrated. 3. Tina Mida, despondency or drowsiness, sloth and torpor, boredom and apathy. This hindrance is separated into 2 sub-factors. Tina, despondency, dejection, discouragement, dispiritedness, and listlessness, which are symptoms of the mind, and Mida, drowsiness, inertia, sleepiness, doziness, sluggishness, and dullness, which are symptoms of the body. The mind overcome by these mental and physical symptoms is weak, constricted, and not suited for application. It thus will not become concentrated. 4. Udacha kukucha, restlessness and worry. This hindrance too is separated into two sub-factors. Udacha, mental restlessness, agitation, vacillation, confusion and turbulence, and kukucha, mental anxiety, distress, disturbance, turmoil and worry. The mind overcome by these factors is restless and drifts aimlessly. It is not peaceful and does not become concentrated. 5. Vicikiccha, doubt, uncertainty and skepticism about the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha, or about the spiritual training. Doubt and skepticism about wholesome qualities, and inability to determine whether a specific quality or a specific kind of meditation, etc., is valuable, worthy of practice, or effective. There is equivocation, hesitation and indecision. The mind obstructed, disturbed and confused by such doubts is unable to become concentrated.